All right, moving on to the next subject. We are talking about another tragedy in American history, and unfortunately, one that is entirely too damn common in this history. And that is the murder trial for the killers of Ahmaud Arbery. So, the specific question that we're going to be discussing is, are there blatant racist undertones in the Ahmaud Arbery case? So I'm going to go ahead and throw this to Mr. PAT to start us off. What say you, sir?
Yeah, so there are definitely some blatant racist undertones at work when it comes to this trial. Let's talk about the jurors for a minute. So out of 12 jurors, 11 are white and only one is black.
One.
Right, only one. And this is the information we got so far. I don't know if they changed it.
No, you're correct. One.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know why that's even shocking, to really be honest.
Well, I'm not shocked, but
I know you're not shocked, but here comes the crazy thing. You know that one line they always use that basically when you go to court, you know, that your juror is basically all of your peers and whatnot. So
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So here comes my question is this, you know, I've never had jury duty, but here comes the funny thing about it. How can you say it's, you know, the court, you know, towards is like, you know, the jurors are basically, you know, your peers and whatnot, but yet jury duty is actually selected by random people and whatnot, you know?
Yeah, but because the point is that it's the jury of the peers of the defendant, right? And that's part of the problem with America. And I'm not going to, you know, dive into it, but that's part of the problem in these cases. Technically, they did uphold the law by giving them a jury of their peers. And that's the fucking problem. They gave them a jury of racist Georgia's or possibly racist Georgia peers.
And that's how, well, Georgia's still a racist state, so I don't give a damn what anybody say about that.
I actually agree with that.
No, it's still racist. They even got
the exception of a few places in Atlanta area, and even then, there are still some close enough to Atlanta that definitely had some shaky racist shit going on there. While I was living in Atlanta for the 4 to 5 years I lived there, so I agree.
That's not even shocking, also too. But if you even going deep, you know, South of Georgia and whatnot, and I picked this up back in like 2006 when I went to Alabama State for a year. So when I lived in Alabama, I met a few people from Georgia, and they told me like, yo, that, you know, the deeper you get in Georgia, the more racist it is. And I'm not just talking about like, you know, like the simple stuff and whatnot, where people try to hide it by, you know, saying, you know, certain remarks. I'm talking about like, you will see the KKK on horses and whatnot. Like you will see them burn down people's houses, and you will see them actually killing, you know, I don't like to use the term black folks, but, you know, indigenous people, like, you know, it's still going on. But I tell everyone like this, the KKK is a club and whatnot. When I mean a club, they are an association. That means that they have a business and whatnot. So when you have already established yourself as a business, that basically stating like, basically you are here to stay. So, but that's just the simplest way to say it. Continue, you know, on the start, but my apologies, man. Continue.
All right. So going back to the 12 jurors, 11 being white and only one being black. So apparently there were 8 black potential jurors, but they were cut. Now the claims that were made were that all 8 of the potential jurors expressed strong opinions about the case when questioned individually by attorneys. I personally think these people are full of shit But that's just my personal opinion, because anyone can claim that someone has a quote unquote strong opinion. But if we don't know exactly what these individuals said, then whatever was said is left up to interpretation. Race is a big factor of this trial. 2 white men murdered a black man in cold blood. Those same white
Technically
men,
3 on trial. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I think because one was just driving, I believe. But
yeah, and he was recording. He was driving and recording.
Right, he was driving and recording. But so yeah, it was three white men. But yeah, I mentioned the 2 that actually confronted Ahmaud Arbery. So all these white men, these same white men that we just mentioned, accused Ahmaud Arbery of a crime he didn't commit, and basically hunted him down and shot him like he was an animal. The racial makeup of that jury obviously needs to be more diverse. To just have one black juror, that's an undertone that is just hard to ignore. There's just no way you can really ignore that. I know some people out there will ignore it because there's a lot of racist people out there, obviously. But yeah, one black juror, come on now. Now, aside from the racial makeup of the jury, the fact that there was a defense attorney who boldly said, and quote, and I'm quoting this, "We don't want any more black pastors." That right there speaks volumes. And that's exactly what he said. He said, "We don't want any more black pastors."
One of the potential jurors said this in their past at some point?
No, a defense attorney. A defense attorney said this. And he said this because I guess he got his feathers ruffled from seeing Al Sharpton in the courtroom.
Oh, yeah. And Jesse Jackson was supposed to be joining as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So he saw Al Sharpton in the courtroom with Ahmaud Arbery's family. So basically, he was like, "Oh, hold on. We can't have any more of these black pastors showing up."
So hold on, time out. So the spokesperson brings his coon to the whole court case, and then they're sitting here saying we can't have this and whatnot. That's
the family. From what I heard, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I'm trying to get, knowing Al Sharpton is going to be there, because I think plain people stated, they're going to bring the spokesperson because I think he's been out there for a while. But why Jesse Jackson? Why that coon and whatnot? Like, what more reinforcement do you need if Al Sharpton is going to be there and what?
Well, I don't know. No, I was going to say I don't know why. I didn't read much about Jesse Jackson, and I guess I didn't read if he was invited or anything of that nature. But
he probably invited himself, to be honest, if there was an invitation for him. So
yeah, I mean, we could speculate, but I know with Al Sharpton, he stated that he was invited by the family. The family basically called on him to be there. And the people there, the defense attorney and whoever else, they obviously had an issue with that. But I guess they were just like, okay, you know what? Is this Al Sharpton guy
on the wrong shit? See, that's a red flag right there.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's why I brought it up, because that's definitely a red flag. For one, they were bothered that Al Sharpton was there, but I'm sure they pretty much were just like, all right, Al Sharpton's here. All right, man, what the fuck? But they just said, fuck it. And, whatever, just the family wanted him there. Let's just keep this thing going. But the defense attorney, one of the defense attorneys, I don't even want to mention this dude's name. It's going to be in one of the articles that's going to be posted in the description. But Yeah, he basically said, we don't want any more of these guys in here. We don't want any more black pastors. And he said black. Those are the words that he said. Nobody's making it up or speculating or assuming. These are the words that came out of his mouth. He said, we don't want any more black pastors. Flat out. He just said it like that. So from that point, it's just like, okay, there's definitely some racist shit going on. I mean, we obviously know there's the racist undertones, and in this case, there's racism surrounding it point blank. I mean, it's just crazy when you think about it. I'm not surprised. I'm sure y'all aren't surprised either.
Hell
but
no.
Yeah, this is what's going on. Like like honestly, it just makes you wonder if you're watching reality TV or something. But this is real life. This is real life we're talking about. So, but anyway, just to sum up what I was saying, just to close it up. I mean, it's pretty clear that the powers that be in this case don't want a serious black presence there. They don't want too many black people around. I don't know if they're afraid that could somehow make the case go in the victim's favor, which it should. But an unarmed black man senselessly murdered, we know where this should go. But of course, the powers that be, they want to control this thing. They want to control the racial makeup, as mentioned already. And they want to do this, and I'm gonna just say this. They want to do this to possibly give these white murderers a light sentence. It's pretty obvious that's what's going on. In my opinion, it's pretty obvious.
It definitely makes sense.
Because based on the jury, and then based on this dude talking about we don't want any more black pastors, what they're pretty much saying is we don't want a whole lot of black people getting involved in this thing. We just don't want too many black people to get involved.
Remember what I keep saying? They can only handle a little bit of chaos, but they can't control mayhem. You know, mayhem's too much for them. So once you give them a little bit of something, they be like, all right, cool. That's enough chaos that we can control, you know? But once mayhem kick in, once they turn up that volume and everything keeps going up, and they be like, oh, hells no, we ain't doing this. You know, that's when they start calling people out their name. Because why? Because mayhem about to kick in. And when mayhem kicks in, they're like, we're going to drop it down where we can control this little bit of chaos. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, they just want as much control as possible. And I guess in their eyes, they're looking at it like, okay, with too many black people involved in this could somehow shift into the victim, Ahmaud Arbery, who's dead. This could shift into his favor, into the family's favor. And these white men who murdered Ahmaud Arbery, they could get a serious sentence over this. And, well, we can't have that. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking, okay, we got to make sure we can get these guys off somehow, even though they might not be cleared of all the charges or whatever. They'll get some type of punishment. We need to make it as light as possible, though. That's their way of thinking. That's how they're looking at it. They're trying to just have a full grasp of it, and in order to do that, they want to control who's in that courtroom. They want to make sure that there isn't too many black bodies in there, because if there is, that's a possible L that they might get. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. But the racist undertones are pretty obvious in this thing right here.
All righty. Thank you for sharing, sir. I'm going to go ahead and throw my 2 cents in on this one. And again, the question that we're discussing is, are there blatant racist undertones in the Ahmaud Arbery case? And my response to that is, does a polar bear shit on ice? Yes. Yes, there's blatant racist undertones in the Ahmaud Arbery case. I mean, his murderers are absolutely racist. Their attorneys do not give a fuck about the victim. And let's be real, I know people are going to argue, well, defense attorneys are supposed to do the best job possible to get their clients off for whatever the charges are. Yeah, you're right. But as PAT mentioned, the unnecessary commentary about Black pastors being there is ridiculous. And as I noted, unnecessary. That's a racist undertone on their part. So let's get down to, brass knuckles, right? The defendants claimed that they followed Ahmaud Arbery because they were trying to execute a citizen's arrest. Bullshit. They claimed this has nothing to do with race. They were trying to execute a citizen's arrest. So let me get this straight. They're claiming their citizen's arrest is because they thought he was burglarizing houses. So they thought that a man in jogging clothes, in broad daylight, with no bag or car or anything else. And let me just be clear, I'm not laughing. This is so fucking preposterous that it's hard for me to get this out with a straight face on behalf of the defendants.
I ain't gonna lie, I was laughing though. So for real, I was laughing though. I was more laughing at you though. But continue though.
It's just because it's so fucking preposterous that a man in broad daylight in jogging clothes with no bag or a car or anything else to carry anything that he would have burglarized and removed from the homes was burglarizing homes. That's the bullshit story that they came up with. No, they followed him because he was Black, running in their neighborhood, and they're fucking racist. And this citizens arrest bullshit is an excuse that they're using because at the time this happened, citizens arrest was a legal thing in Georgia. It's my understanding it has since been repealed. But this is just an excuse that the lawyers decided to go with. Because let me understand a few things about this case. The daddy, and I refuse to say their names, none of them, I'm not acknowledging any of their fucking names, but the dad was an ex-cop. So let me get this right. You suspect someone of burglarizing homes and think that they're so dangerous that you have to get not only your son, but your nosy ass neighbor, and y'all have to carry loaded weapons to chase down this person, but you didn't think to call the police for backup? The actual fucking cops when you were an ex-cop? Get the fuck out of here. And then furthermore, it's just a coincidence that at the time of the incident, the son's truck had a Confederate flag on it. Give me a break. These are a bunch of racist assholes who chased down an unarmed Black man and executed him. And everything that is happening now is due cause from a justice standpoint. Now, let's talk about the same subject that Mr. PAT mentioned with the jury. So, in all fairness, this is the only thing I will give the judge. When the jury was finally picked, meaning all the jury selection responsibilities were over, at the end of it, the prosecution immediately spoke out about the fact that they felt like jurors were rejected because of race. Now, while the judge did say that he could not make any changes to the jury because the defense had given viable reasons why each one of the jurors were rejected, he did acknowledge that he too felt like there was racial bias a part of this. So, in other words, the judge is saying my hands are tied because if I reverse this ruling or if I reverse this situation and override the defense, and they have presented technically legally viable reasons for why they rejected each one of those attorneys, ultimately what could happen is there could be a mistrial or those guys could be acquitted because of it. So he stated that was the reason he did not intervene, which I actually understand that. I know enough about the law to understand that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that clearly racial bias was a part of the makeup of this jury. When you look at the statistics in this situation, there is too high a percentage of Black people in that area for only the minimum amount that were selected in the first place. It's bullshit. It is clear and utter bullshit. But, you know, at the end of the day, I do think that justice will be served because, in my opinion, for them to not convict these guys, at least the father and the son. The third one, I find that there's a possibility with him just videotaping and him not actually having confronted Ahmaud. I know he is also charged with the murder and etc. But I think the fact that just because he was not directly responsible for confronting him, he may not be found of the murder charges, but I do think that the other two will. And so I hope that justice will be served in this regard. But, you know, is there a question of whether there's racist undertones? Absolutely. This whole situation is about race. And anyone who says otherwise is choosing to be willingly ignorant about this. They're choosing that shit.
Or they're just
there is nothing logical. I'm sorry?
No, I was saying, or they're just racist themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They're either willingly ignorant about it or they're racist themselves. It's that simple. This is clearly about race. I mean, I beg the question, okay, you were trying to make a citizen arrest. How many other citizen fucking arrests have you made in your past then? Why was this the first one? A man jogging by himself in broad daylight. I mean, the story is just full of bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. And then this is my last little tidbit before I wrap up my point in regards to the racist undertones. Let's talk about the fact that when the first cop arrived on the scene, this asshole made no attempt to revive Ahmaud Arbery in any way. He gave him no medical aid. So he arrives on the scene. There are 3 people standing up. One of them has a gun. Someone's laying on the floor. Even though I understand it was shotgun wounds and he, was expired, why wouldn't his thought just be to see if there's any chance whatsoever that there was an opportunity to save his life? The mom, Ahmaud Arbery's mom, has this question. Countless commentators and lawyers have spoken about that. It's bullshit. It's because it's Georgia. There was a dead Black man that some racist white men killed, and no one gave a fuck about the victim on that day. They did not care because their only concern, let's talk about this. They let the third guy leave the scene, remove his truck from the scene of the crime scene. Fucking what? What? Standard procedure is that truck should have been impounded. It's bullshit. So, to summarize, are there blatant racist undertones in the Ahmaud Arbery case? Absolutely. Everyone involved, the killers themselves, the cops, their lawyers, all of them are fucking racist. And I hope justice is swiftly served and that they are met with the harshest punishments available. Their piece of shit lawyers never get another client a day after this for their racist behavior. And that cop needs to, whichever way appropriate, answer for not even attempting to revive or check on Ahmaud Arbery. Those are my thoughts on the matter. I'm going to throw it to E-Man to wrap us up. What say you, sir?
All right. So, let's dial back on to like this whole case and whatnot. And when I mean dial back, I wouldn't say take it down to a trip of memory lane, but I want to take it back when the story hit. For one, I thought the story was weird. And the reason why is this because, I mean, at the time the story hit around during, I don't like to use the word pre-pandemic, but when this thing started, this whole pandemic, when it started, most of us were like home. I would say majority of everybody was home, unless you had to go to work, because the only thing we could do is go to work, grocery store, and that's basically it. That was basically it. It was just work and grocery store. And then the story hit out, and when I heard about the story, it was, for me, I thought it was very interesting. For one, they said a man burglarized homes that fit the description, but I would think anybody who wears like jogging clothes, wearing sweatpants and whatnot, that's pretty common because you can buy that stuff at the store, But even with this one, a lot of things just didn't add up for me, not just the senseless killing, but the simplest fact, man, like you said a man was burglarizing home, but yet where's the getaway car? What items did he steal? And especially if you got sweatpants and jogging stuff on, like how much stuff can you really carry? You know what? Because if you got a pocket full of jewelry in your pocket while you're running, you weighing yourself down, but you didn't find anything. And when this story hit, I wasn't highly enraged. When I mean I wasn't highly enraged, I wasn't shocked because this happens daily, even with zero cameras, or when I mean like zero cameras, because now police officers have to wear, the body cams and whatnot. So camera and no camera, it still goes on, but the one thing was, as most of us all, there was not as much shock value behind this, there's some people who were mad upset, but then others wasn't. And that what made everything more interesting about, not seeing other people's, I wouldn't say opinions, but their reactions were more surprising, And what I mean by why I was surprised, I was more surprised. The simple fact is that, it wasn't that mayhem I was looking for, because we could, and I mean by this, like, we could have, it could have been big. It could have been a big march. It could have been something. I don't want to use the word march, but it could have been something that could have been really powerful to keep it moving. But I mean, it really wasn't, Like seeing officers walk from the law for, somewhat heinous crimes that they do, and they don't get no time from it. You know, I'm not going to talk about this is the system that we in, but this is the system that's built to keep what they need to keep moving and whatnot. So in my eyes, they're going to see like there's no crime that has been committed because based upon law, basically, them killing us is basically that we are nothing more than what we are is nothing but 2 cents and whatnot. Basically, we're not much. We don't mean anything at all. And because we don't mean anything, well, they're going to keep doing the same thing they've been doing. And do I feel anybody's going to stop them? No. Do I feel whatever the verdict of the case, do you feel like anything else is going to change? Not really. So we're still on this huge revolving wheel, like the whole mouse. And the faster you keep going, it's going to keep going. And then when we finally slow down, it's the same thing, No matter how fast that wheel moves, no matter how slow that wheel moves, we're still going to be in the same spot, same place. And that's what it is with like every single case and whatnot, every single case. I don't think it's going to change. But at this moment right now, we need to scrap every spokesperson. Like Al Sharpton needs to go. I don't know. They need a better spokesperson. Like I said, they need a real spokesperson. They need someone like me, That's what I think. They need someone like me, And what I mean by that is just, not because I'm trying to be cocky, as I'm speaking right now. It's just y'all don't care and whatnot, Well, like you're bringing in Al Sharpton. How much? I'm sitting over here like Al's like damn near. I feel like Al is one heart attack away of flopping pretty soon and whatnot. I don't care how skinny he is and whatnot, I just feel like he is one heart attack away of flopping pretty soon. But that's the guy you needed in the courtroom.
Universe forbid. Yeah. Hope not.
I hope not. But like I said, I'm just saying, like, and to the inference I mean by that, it just means like, yo, I was at an age where like I feel like this nigga don't care and whatnot. Like,
yeah, we know who he is. We know that he's this quote unquote spokesperson, but unfortunately, people still see him as a so-called black leader. So the victim's family, for better or worse, however we want to look at it, they wanted him there.
Mm-hmm. They were doing what is in the best interest, in their opinion, to receive justice. And,
right.
And, so that's whether you totally agree with who he is and his lifestyle or whatever it is about him, from the victim's family perspective, they were willing to do whatever it takes that may push towards justice. So I understand that.
Yeah, I understand it from that angle too.
I get what you're saying, but I'm still trying to say it's like that's what we got to do now. Like I feel like that's going to be the last resort and everything. Like, yo, are we going to keep calling on Al until everything's A-okay? Like that's what we're going to just keep doing, and then Al can't do as much as he could anymore, so he's just folding and whatnot. Which I think he's always going to be folding at this point because like he basically like he's out on his tail end. Like he's more at the end of the tail, and we all talk about we need to change, but we got to change and look more towards not the better future, but to have a better sustainable future. you know? Because once Al goes, like, who we gonna have? Ain't nobody gonna say anything, you know? So it's not even just like, having new black leaders. It's about like, we need to start creating things where we need a better what's going on and whatnot. So for us, it needs to stop. We need actual people, not people who've been in the whole civil rights thing, because not just because what they fought, but civil rights always had to hit on the table like every some odd year, supposedly. What I found out based upon law and whatnot, that they have to keep voting on civil rights and whatnot, which they did I think 2019 or something like that. But yeah, like we can't keep relying on the same guys who've been fighting since 50, 60 years ago to keep this train moving and whatnot. Because then everyone's going to be like, well, so who's the next person if this keeps continuing and happening? Like, nobody's going to say anything. So, like, we don't just need new spokesperson. We need new faces. And now we don't just need new faces. We need more young faces in mid-age. And when I mean by mid-age, we're talking people like 30s and up and whatnot. Mostly people around our age, because we seen what the transition was like when we were born in the ages until now. We've seen a whole lot of things change. But to get this to stop being not just so a controversial topic, but to get this shit to crazily just, put it in more of our favors, we need more younger faces and whatnot. Like we just do, And that's just my opinion on it, That's just my opinion. Because nothing's not going to change unless we not just starting like acting for this change, but we need better young faces to start appealing to, more of us and whatnot, Because I have nothing against Al Sharpton, but like, yo, Al, you got like at least about a good, like damn near good 40 years on me, man. At least, at least. Like
well,
damn near.
I was gonna say real quick. So the thing with Al Sharpton, and I'm not gonna get too deep into that because we don't want to change the subject or make this thing go longer than it should. But real quick, we have to remember that Al Sharpton is part of the Democratic establishment.
There you go.
So for any, let's say like a younger black face to take the lead, they would also have to be part of the Democratic liberal establishment. Now, in my opinion, we have to ask ourselves, is that what we, and when I say we, is that what black people really want? We need somebody independent, somebody who's not on the left or the right, so to speak, somebody who's not a Democrat, somebody who's not a Republican. We need somebody who is independent, who's black and independent. Let me just put it like that.
You basically got me.
Because the thing is, we could have a younger face put out there. And I'm sure I know they've tried a few times, but some of these people get delegitimized for obvious reasons. Because
they're their people. Yeah.
Right. And, there's some of us out there who could see through them and we're like, no, you ain't it. But anyway, we want to make sure that they're not from the Democratic establishment or the Republican establishment or whatever. They have to be independent. Key thing, independent. But to go back to Al Sharpton, he's the main guy. And like I said, quote unquote, black leader, because there's no such thing as a black leader. But he's quote unquote the black leader. because he's part of that Democratic establishment, and they basically use him for Black so-called leadership, or to be the Black spokesperson. So whenever something bad happens, whenever there's a tragedy involving Black people, and it becomes a nationwide thing, who do they go to? They go to Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson, but of course we hear more about Al Sharpton. So just wanted to put that out there real quick.
Now you good, PAT. I mean, it's more like, you see what you get now, and I'm not going to take anything from this case, because I feel it's going to be like every other case, like not just every other case, but every other cold case that still hasn't been solved and everything, So no matter what we keep using or keep saying, it's still going to be this level of like the same shit going on and whatnot, And one of the interesting things, like, Young Pharaoh actually, he did a live that was really interesting, like years ago, I think last year, where he was talking about basically how many police officers don't go to jail for killing a lot of Black males and whatnot constantly. And the crazy thing about it is that they kill more Black males in a year that is not told by the public, I think 3 times more and whatnot. So there's 365 days in a year. They kill at least about close to maybe 1,000 to 1,700, max 3,000 Black males every year and whatnot, and they don't even like televise, because why? That's the whole thing that goes to my same concept of the whole mayhem and chaos thing, And when people find the actual number, there's going to be mayhem and whatnot, But they give you a little chaos because they feel like it's good when you put out one story or 3 stories, within a month about this and whatnot. So it makes it seem like, well, they're not doing it as much and whatnot, And you want to say it's sad, but I find it just disappointing, and it's not disappointing to me, it's disappointing to a lot of people that's not really informed about what's really going on. Like, that's the disappointing part, because anybody can have a conversation about, social injustice. And we talk about how much is it, like how much is going on with it. But we can't talk about how we can make this change we don't need to make the system better. We just need to get rid of it, because and when I mean by getting rid of it, I'm talking about the inner of, I don't like to use the word, I don't want to use white supremacy in this, but basically the Constitution that build institutions to help create the whole thing of white supremacy and whatnot. That's the thing, They have laws that basically are out there so they don't get as crazy as they get. That's why we might get a few of them in jail and whatnot, A few, not all, just a few, And I feel like this is what's going to happen with this case, So I tell people, I'm not even holding my breath. I'm basically saying, like, we're back at this again. What do we need to do, to soften the blow? In my case and whatnot, because I'm on these people who are more conscious about it while others are not, So for many people, they might lose their mind. For me, I treat it as another day, and to educate people, it needs to stop. So what are we going to do to stop it? Whatnot? Because clearly the same spokesperson that we had still ain't doing the same thing. But yeah, my final thoughts on this and just basically say that, not much is going to change. And if we would, I wouldn't say stop, but if we would enlighten ourselves, what needs to stop? Stop bringing the same old establishment that's not doing anything, that's still going to basically line their pockets up with the same people, and I'm going to just end it from there. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.